Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about crypto diversification. A lot of people are very intent on diversifying their crypto portfolio. They feel like they need to make sure that they have a little bit of each as a way to make sure that they get all of the winners. And in this video, I want to tell you that I don't think that's a very good strategy, and I'll tell you exactly why. Now, diversification is something that that has been espoused by financial planners for like the last 100 years. Not coincidentally, the last 100 years have been an age of fiat. Before that, what people did was they kept their money mostly in sound money. So, for example, during the 1700s and 1800s and so on, a lot of people just kept their wealth in gold. They didn't have to diversify, right? They didn't have to have 7 different investments and have a 401k that had a little bit of every major company just in case any of them collapsed, because people believed in gold. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. It's okay. I don't need to worry about it collapsing. And that's the idea behind diversification. It was a way to hedge against things collapsing. But when we had sound money in the 1800s, people didn't really diversify. That wasn't sort of a thing until fiat money came into play. And now that we have fiat money, you need some way to make sure that you're hedging against a lot of the factors that come in with fiat money. For example, it can get inflated away from you, and there's a lot of ways in which it can get taxed away from you. It can get seized and things like that. So as a way to hedge, like portfolio managers have come up with this idea of diversification. Okay, well, if fiat continues to go down, you could put all your money in treasury bills, but it doesn't get a very good return, and it's constantly being inflated away, so it ends up not being very good. And don't believe those statistics about 1 or 2% inflation. Those are government-backed statistics. They have an incentive to make you think that it's not going down as fast as it is. Like the actual money printing is on the order of 6, 7, 8% a year. That's the actual rate of inflation. And if you looked at prices of almost anything in the last 10 years, you know that it's increased significantly more than 1 or 2% a year. So it's very obvious that inflation is at a higher clip, and that's why diversification is necessary. Other assets that increase faster than treasury bills, which are like 1 or 2%, right? You also can't keep it at a bank because it doesn't increase fast enough. So what choice do you have? You have to invest in a bunch of things, but putting it all in one basket doesn't work. This is for the fiat world. Now, in crypto, people are thinking the same way, but you're bringing old world thinking into the new world. The new world is that there is already sound money. That is Bitcoin. Every crypto hedge fund is measured against Bitcoin for that reason. It's the oldest one. It's the one that's proven itself the most. It's the one that's actually sound money. It's actually decentralized. Everything else is centralized in some way. So in a way, you're betting on their long-term viability. Now, is it possible that some of them are long-term viable? Probably. I mean, there's always a possibility. But from a sound money perspective, what you should be doing from a portfolio perspective is keep most of it in sound money and only invest what you are willing to lose in these other coins. That's the strategy that you should have. Instead, what people are doing is buying like equal or some weighted amounts of the top 10 coins, thinking that's the way to go. That's a very lazy way to do it, and it also throws away a lot of information, and it's subject to a lot of noise and a lot of scamminess. There isn't scamminess in Bitcoin. That should be your main one. Now, if there are interesting things and you think that they're undervalued in the short term, it might make sense to do some diversification. But portfolio diversification over the long term on some of this stuff that hasn't even been around for more than a couple of years just doesn't make sense, right? Even in the public markets, most of the companies that people have lasted like 10 years. You don't get to be on the S&P 500 without having existed for a while. You don't get to go public unless you've existed for a while. At the very least, you need to give some of these coins some time before, you know, diversification in that sense makes sense. Now, the other reason that people, you know, diversify is they're really hoping to hit on a lottery ticket, and this is due a lot to envy. Due to envy, you know, oh, I already missed out on whatever Bitcoin is, so I need to, you know, like invest in this other coin and hope that it goes 100x. That is a very poor and short-term strategy. First of all, not many of these are going to 100x. I'm sorry to have to tell you that. And second, even if they do 100x, it's not likely that you're going to be able to time it that well. It's probably a short-term pump. Even if it's a long-term pump, you're going to have to hold for a very long time in order to realize those gains. It doesn't pump in 6 months anymore, like you know, like it did for a little bit. So you know, I mean, that's my thought on portfolio diversification. Bitcoin is the actual sound money. It's appreciating against fiat. It protects you against inflation and stuff like that. If the goal is to keep your wealth, most of it should be in Bitcoin. Maybe a little bit of dabbling in other stuff if you want to do some short-term plays. But again, that's a different discipline, right? That requires you to know about trading and figuring out, you know, when the hype cycles are, and you know, Tone can tell you all about the TD indicator and all this other stuff. So think about that and think about your goals first before you do any of this. Hopefully that helps you. This song is done.